So you might have seen that Yamaha are now officially testing their V4 engine in MotoGP. Now they're testing this alongside the Inline-four that they have and have currently run for forever, essentially. A few things have come out about that, and I'm here to talk about what I think about it, and is it the right move for Yamaha in the future? Because not everything is solved purely because an engine. Maybe a few years ago when they were severely lacking top end, it might have been the priority, but with the engine changes to the 850s and the just landscape of MotoGP that it's currently in, let's look at the options that Yamaha have. You might have seen that Yamaha's technical director, Max Bartolini, has of course confirmed they're testing it. You might have seen videos on social media from a Valencia test, which personally, when you hear the videos, it sounded like the videos that I seen anyway, it was majority pretty much was the Inline-four still being tested, not the V4. You can tell a massive difference straight away with the inline and the V4. Especially if you've been to a MotoGP race, you can really distinctly hear the Yamaha above anything else because it's different to everything else essentially. Well, when the Suzuki was there as well, you could really distinctly hear the Inline-four compared to the V4. Yeah, I think that Max Bartolini has said that it's all about selecting the fastest package, and they'll concurrently run these two engines alongside each other in testing. We might potentially see it in a race, who knows, in a wildcard situation if it's up to speed. Of course, the factory riders and the Pramac riders haven't actually tried it yet, which is still noteworthy as it's only been Cal Crutchlow and Augusto Fernandez. Of course, they're two test riders that have. And do I think it'll solve their problems? Yes and no. It's the fact that having a V4 doesn't solve everything. If you look at Honda, for example, they're the slowest bike throughout the speed traps this year, along with Yamaha. But that says everything. Just because you have a V4 doesn't mean you're going to be the quickest in a straight line. And the thing for Yamaha that they need to essentially eradicate and to get more competitive in MotoGP is the lack of grip that they have. They've had this issue for, I'd say, for majority of the Michelin era, where yes, it's not been as bad in the earlier years of the Michelin era, but it's definitely the past 3-4 years you've seen it just really dictate how their weekend goes sometimes. The lack of grip at certain tracks and the fact that the Yamaha is so heavily reliant on the front end of their machine. It uses all the front grip. It doesn't utilize the rear grip. And Max Bartolini has talked about that a lot, trying to change the profile with chassis, play with things to try and make sure that the rear is getting utilized. Because if you don't have rear grip in MotoGP, you're not going to win anything. Because that's why Ducati are so good. They utilize every bit of grip that they have from that machine in any condition of any track. We see it kind of sporadically with certain manufacturers. Aprilia can be really good around a certain track, but then they go to the next track and they struggle. Same for KTM. I mean, they're very heavily dependent on rear grip, and I think that this is the key factor. Will a V4 change the profile enough for them to go, oh, look, the rear end's slightly different now, we can use it more? But then you're potentially taking away the strong point of the front end. But I don't think that'll be the case. I think Yamaha's front end has been obviously the talking point. It's always been really strong, and they've kind of missed that in the last few years, and it's kind of going back to that way. But it's trying to take away some of it because they use so much of their front tire that it costs them in a race. They don't utilize the rear grip enough. The V4, interesting for me because I talked about the Honda thing there. They're obviously the slowest in the speed trap, but the Honda profile, that bike's okay. Now it's getting towards the front again. Yamaha, I think it's time just to try it because you never try, you never know. And that is that sort of mantra, isn't it? Where you maybe should just try it to see if you have made the right decision rather than guessing if you've made the right or wrong one. I think having them in test sessions is key because Cal Crutchlow, Honda rider, for majority of his time in MotoGP. He knows of what a V4 feels like. And of course, it helps having Augusto Fernandez, who's been on a KTM. And if you even look past that, Dovi kind of helps out as well. Of course, V4, Honda, he's done it on a Ducati as well. They know what the feeling is like. And I think the key part is they have to get it right before it gets to the hands of Fabio Quartararo and Alex Rins, Jack Miller, Miguel Oliveira, for example, because I'm just thinking Quartararo's never had experience with a V4. Alex Rins has with the Honda. Jack Miller obviously has in the KTM and the Ducati and the Honda. Miguel Oliveira similar as well, the KTM and the Aprilia. This is the key here. They know what it'll feel like, and I think that bike will be better. But for me, the Inline-four has kind of taken a lot of criticism. But if you only have to go back to 2022, and if I said to you, who won the last 2 out of 3 Grand Prix in 2022? Can you remember? Well, it was Suzuki. And they had a fantastic Inline-four. And of course, they pulled out MotoGP and arguably had the best bike for the last few rounds of the season. So they never struggled really with top end. They went for that. I always remember, I think it was 21, 20, is it 22, where they were fast in the speed traps at Qatar. And everyone was mind blown by the Suzuki's top end. It changed the profile of the bike, obviously with the Inline-four, but they were still competitive. And this is the key point. Yamaha have the Inline-four probably maxed to where they can. They just need to play about with settings to try and make it more rounded. It's not like the Yamaha's getting absolutely smoked on a straight. It is when it's in a pack, but certain circuits like Jerez, for example, coming up this weekend, you'll see the strengths of the Yamaha well on display because of the agility that they have. And you'll see the same for the Honda. Even though that's a V4, you'll still understand the characteristics of the bike. And I think they've kind of got away from, I think back about Yamaha, they just wanted more power, and it changed things back in, say, 2004 to 2005. They were at a big deficit to Honda, and Valentino Rossi and the engineers, they got more power in 2005, and they took it even further in 2006. And then they had a lot of issues, and they went back to a 2005 engine, which was smoother, and it eradicated some chatter in the 2006 bike. Yamaha need to be careful, but I think they've got the right team and Max Bartolini to lead that project. Of course, being at Ducati for so many years, he understands that we don't want to lose all the DNA, but let's just see if the Inline-four still has what it takes. Because who knows, if you get to an 850cc era, the Inline-four could be the bike of choice. And I think it's good that they're doing that concurrently, because obviously they've been looking at 27, but then looking at 26 next year. Do they just take a risk if they know that the 26 bike with a V4 is worth it? Do they run it for a season, or do they just wait it out and keep it for 27? Yeah, I'm very intrigued by it. Yamaha, it's fascinating to see the test work that they've been doing. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Have you been interested in what their test philosophy's been like? Because they've certainly been very active. Honda have went a different direction. They've kept the same bike, but they've made it less of an animal essentially from crashes. And look how they've been this year. So yeah, 2 different philosophies from the 2 Japanese manufacturers. But Yamaha have certainly piqued my interest with what they're doing with their V4 testing. And I hope we get more videos, more interviews, more comments from riders about this project, because it's interesting. Let's see where it leads to. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, comment if you're brand new. Comment what you think of Yamaha's testing program. And until next time, we'll see you then. Take care.